Good morning, students. Today we are going to go over in-text citations, which is very important in any essay that you write in English, in high school, and college, everywhere. You even need these when you're doing a work presentation. These can also be called parenthetical citations, so if you hear this, that's what we're doing. Number one, what are in-text citations? These are basically little notes in your essay that lets the reader know where you got your information. It lets me know as a reader that you use good sources and that you didn't just come up with this information by yourself. It lets me know that I can trust you and trust your research. You need to use these whenever you quote or paraphrase one of your sources. Remember, paraphrasing is when you put the source's information in your own words. What we're going to be using is MLA citations, which is just one of the formats that you can use to cite things. And in this video, we're going to focus on online sources since, let's be honest, this is probably what you're going to be using in today's world. However, if you need more info, you can check out the Purdue OWL MLA. If you just Google this term, it'll pop up for you. So these are the two articles we've been working on. There is one from CNN and one from the CDC. What's different about these two sources is that this source has two authors. It's very easy to find the author. It's usually at the top. However, this source doesn't really tell you who the author is. See, it's not there. There's no name. So if you have an author, all you have to do is include their name. So say I'm using a quote from that CNN article here. I'm going to say, CNN reports that the New England Journal of Medicine determined that COVID-19 lives on plastic and stainless steel surfaces for up to 3 days. Howard and Hannah. So these two names here are the last names of our authors, Jacqueline Howard and Jason Hannah. I also included here CNN reports because that just makes it clear where the article comes from. Notice that I have my quotation mark here, the parentheses, and the period goes on the outside. This is what a lot of students miss, okay? But it is important. Also notice that I just noticed as I was reading this that it doesn't necessarily make sense grammatically. The New England Journal of Medicine determined that COVID-19 lives on plastic? No, I should say lives. Just as a handy tip, if I want to add that, I have to put my S in little brackets so that the reader knows I added that, okay? Step number 2, but what if I don't have an author? I kind of cheat with this is I always use the organization name as the author. So if you look at the CDC site here, you can see that there's no author. But it's pretty clear the CDC, or the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, tongue twister, they wrote the site. So what I'll often do is use the CDC or the organization name as my author. The only rule that MLA gives is that whatever is in your in-text citation needs to be the very first part of your entry on the works cited. The works cited we're going to talk about in a different video, but just so you know, the works cited is the thing at the end of your essay that tells you your sources, and it's going to be that first part of your entry. So what I usually do is if I can't find an author, instead of the author here, I just put the organization name or the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So here's my quote. The CDC states that while people can get COVID-19 by touching a surface or object that has the virus on it, and then touching their own mouth or nose, or possibly their eyes, this is not usually how one gets COVID-19. Okay, do you see how here I used the CDC and I used my quote? I did not have to put anything in parentheses because I told you my source right here. I also wanted to include a example of me paraphrasing. So I'm going to paraphrase this quote right here. However, while one could get coronavirus from touching a contaminated surface and then touching their face, it is not likely to cause infection. And then I have to put the CDC in parentheses because I didn't put it at the front right here, okay? And again, like before, the period is going to go on the outside. However, if you find yourself in a circumstance where there's no author and it's not clear who the organization is, what you can also do is use the title. So the title of this article is frequently asked questions. So I'm going to say the CDC's frequently asked questions states that while people blah, 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 blah. And then if I wanted to put it in the parentheses, I would do this. The quotation marks are used because it's a web page. All right, so that is how this is done. Here are just some final tips. Number one, check the OWL Purdue MLA site if you have any questions. Number two, ask your teacher. A lot of in-text citations you kind of figure out from experience, and since I have experience, ask me or ask whatever teacher the class is for. Number three, this is important, always start with the sentence stem. If you notice from here, I didn't just start with the quote. I have this sentence stem. CNN reports that the New England Journal of Medicine determined that COVID-19, it's always good to have this sort of introduction part or a transition into your quote. It just makes everything flow better. So like the CDC states that while people, this is your sentence stem. And number four, it is always better to oversight than undercite. If you're not sure if that information came from you or it came from the website, always cite it. Unless your essay has a lot of opinion, I should see lots of in-text citations because since you guys are not experts in your field, you need to use other people's expert opinions to prove your thesis. All right, so that is all we have to go over today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.